Hi, this is Louie and Paula out exploring Arizona. Today we're taking a Jeep trail along the southeast flank of the Hualapai Mountains through Shannon Basin. Our trip starts in the town of Wickiup on Chicken Springs Road. Near milepost 10, we turned on BLM Jeep Trail 7371 and went along the southern Hualapai Mountains to the old Benegas Ranch. Beyond the ranch, we took a side road to a prominent vein outcrop before returning to the main road and out to the Big Sandy and Highway 93. We headed west past the ADOT equipment yard and the Wickiup Grade School. Go Broncos! Chicken Springs is a graded road that crosses the mountains and connects to Alamo Road. If you go south on Alamo Road, it will take you to the north side of Alamo Lake, a great bass and crappie lake. We are taking off on a Jeep trail that goes along the eastern flank of the range. The slope is gradual driving up the east side pediment, that part of the mountain slope that grades toward the valley. The Hualapais are a fault block mountain, tilting about 15 degrees to the east, forming a gradual slope. We reached a cattle guard near milepost 10 and turned on a Jeep trail. So far, the road had been graded and passable by any vehicle, but once on the Jeep trail, it gets rough and a high-clearance four-wheel drive vehicle is needed. Sometimes the road can be completely washed out due to rain. We might have to dig our way through. By the tracks left after the last rain, we saw that this Jeep trail isn't frequently traveled. This isn't a place to break down or run out of gas. We've climbed from the valley bottom and entered scrub juniper vegetation. This is the transition zone between the Sonoran and Mojave deserts. It's not surprising to see vegetation types typical of the two deserts mixed in this part of the Hualapais. The BLM labeled the Jeep trails with brown road number signs. If the BLM sign has only numbers, the road will continue and connect to another road. But if the sign includes a letter after the number, that means the road dead ends. This is not a rock crawling type of road, just a leisurely drive through the desert, enjoying the scenery with a few challenges to make it interesting. Slow is better than racing, easier on the vehicle and on the road. Like having to drive around a completely washed out section. Southern Hualapais aren't very tall, just low ridges covered by scrub juniper vegetation. It's great to get out and enjoy the beautiful scenery. Joshua tree is a great directional indicator, a way to determine which way is north. It grows in such a way as to maximize the sun's energy. More growth is toward the southwest. Toward the northeast, it looks like the plant has turned its back. To determine north, stand looking at the maximum growth side. North is approximately 30 degrees to your left. An interesting phenomenon of the saguaro is when they grow in a weird sort of way, called crested. To the right of the trail, we found a large crested saguaro. It is starting to show its age, but is still a stately specimen looking over the Big Sandy Valley. Now we can tell we're getting into mining country, as there are old rock mining claim monuments. The old-timers used to stack rocks to mark their claims. Nowadays, miners use 2x2 wood posts. When arriving at a gate, remember to leave it as you found it. Close it after passing through if it was closed, and leave it open if you found it open. The rancher might be moving cattle from one pasture to another. Louis had a test for newly hired geologists when he worked at Mineral Park. When out working, he'd have them open a gate and then see what side of the fence they'd be on after they closed the gate. Not everyone passed the test. On the south side of the ridge are bands of white-colored rocks along the hills. These are either rhyolite dikes or quartz blowouts. The quartz blowouts are glassy-looking and are the quartz part of pegmatite dikes. The rhyolite dikes are a dull white fine-grained volcanic rock interpreted to be the last phase of a larger intrusive at depth. This type of flow-banded rhyolite dikes is common around porphyry copper deposits. Is there a copper deposit at depth? No one knows. Next to the wash is what's left of the Benegas homestead, a stone fireplace. The nearby spring now has a modern windmill. The Benegas family is an old pioneer family of the Big Sandy Valley. While going up the wash, we arrived at an old lead-zinc silver mine. The mine dump isn't very large, so there wasn't a lot of development on this property, and the shaft is caved in. There is some new interest, however, as we found a recently staked mining claim. The side of the mine shaft are the remains of an old workshed. The large wood block planted in the ground is where the blacksmith's anvil was anchored. Below the workshop is a round cement water tank. Not exactly sure what it was, but it could have been a water storage tank or a thickener tank, or an attempt at an arrastra, which is a very old and crude method of grinding ore. There are also rock foundations to some buildings, but nothing is left standing. We continued until reaching a junction. To the left, the road went out to the Big Sandy. To the right was a road that would take us to a beautiful outcrop of an epithermal vein. So we went right. We were now in a warmer part of the mountains where cholla are common. Chollas are the meanest cacti in all the desert, with spines similar to porcupine quills. They have a sharp main shaft going out and smaller spines that go in the opposite direction, so it really hurts when you pull one out of your finger. But they are also good directional indicators, preferring the south-facing slopes where they get most of the sun. North-facing slopes will have a few plants, while south-facing slopes might be covered in cholla. Once we got to the vein exposure, we saw a griffin guarding the entrance to the canyon. Actually, it's a jagged outcrop of a low sulfidation epithermal vein, meaning not much pyrite, and epithermal, meaning low temperature of formation. However, to us, it looks like a mythical creature. There are great crustiform, cauliform textures of quartz and calcite. The center of the vein contains brecciated wall rock. On the north side of the canyon is a short adit that must have been used to test the gold content of the vein. Once in the narrow part of the canyon, there was a dry waterfall that prevented us from going any further. The vertical walls are pockmarked with holes where softer material has been eroded by water and wind. As we were leaving the canyon, we noticed a huge beehive high on the rock face. The honey in that comb is safe because unless you are a rock climber, no one is reaching that honey. Leaving the canyon, we returned to the junction, and this time we continued downhill to the Big Sandy River where the water was low and we could drive across. Thanks for going with us on our Shannon Basin run through the Hualapais. Hope you will join us again soon.